this Adam Sandler movie. I've actually been looking forward to this movie since I first heard about it, largely because it is a drama-focused movie that stars Adam Sandler, and I do love when Adam Sandler breaks out from his crappy comedies and goes into dramas because he usually does really well in them. The last drama he did was the Meyerowitz Stories, which was a fantastic movie, and I really enjoyed it. He does a lot of these movies, when he does dramas, he does a lot of movies that are character-focused. They're very much about him. And Uncut Gems is no exception to that. So the basic premise of Uncut Gems is that Adam Sandler plays Howard. He's a jeweler in New York who is a gambling addict. He constantly bets on things. He owes people money. He owes his one loan shark a lot of money, and he's just constantly trying to pay this guy back. But in the process is gambling with this guy's money and digging himself in a deeper hole. And it's just a rush of anxiety and just all this stuff piling on top of each other until it all just kind of means nothing in the end. It's just the whole movie is an anxiety trip. It is not a pleasant watch. It is really not pleasant in any way. It is just mesmerizing. It's like if anyone saw the opening to Alfred Hitchcock's Vertigo, it's very much, it's kind of the inverse of that, where Vertigo is very hypnotic in the beginning, where you're just watching it, just like, oh, what the hell? With Uncut Gems, it's very similar, except you are panicking the whole time. You are just like, oh my god, what the fuck? And part of what makes this movie work so much, because I did love this movie, what makes it work so much is Adam Sandler in the role, because Adam Sandler is absolutely fantastic in this movie. This is quite possibly his best performance ever. He is just mesmerizing because he's so natural. Every time he's talking to somebody, he has chemistry with everybody on screen. Every interaction he has with somebody feels like he's a real person, and a lot of that has to do with just him as a person, because everyone says Adam Sandler, like, despite whatever you think of his comedies, everyone says that he's a super nice guy, and I believe that because I've seen him in interviews. He seems like a very nice little insecure guy, and he brings that to this role, and I think that's the genius in casting him, because this character is not written to be a likable person, really. He's a sleazebag, he's an idiot, he's constantly putting his family at risk, he's putting himself at risk with these terrible decisions. He just can't stop. But what makes him work, what makes you want him to succeed, is because it's Adam Sandler playing it. Adam Sandler is just naturally likable, and he brings this humanity to this role. And there are times in the movie where Howard's humanity does peak out at certain points. Particularly, my favorite scene in the movie, there's a scene where where it's just him at a family gathering, and you see him grounded in just home life, and you really feel like, he makes a lot of fuck-ups, he makes a lot of bad decisions, but he does care about his family. Like, there's a scene where he tries to connect with his daughter, there's a scene where he's talking to his son and bonding with his son. Like, they're brief scenes, but it shows like he's not lost. His only drive in this world isn't money. It's his biggest factor, definitely, but it's not the only thing he cares about. He does care about his family. There are times where he does things to keep his family safe, and that just made him feel more human when he's talking to his wife, Idina Menzel. There's their chemistry, and just he tries to reconcile with her, and just the way she reacts to it and how he plays it. It all just feels so real. But at the same time, Adam Sandler's character is drawn to this young mistress who, is the reason him and his wife are in the process of getting a divorce. And you like both of these women, and he has chemistry with both these women, and you can see the dilemma, because you're like, it is tough because that is your wife, but you had your chance and you fucked up, and so there's her, but she's also deeply flawed. I forget the actress's name. I think it's Julia Fox that plays Adam Sandler's mistress in this movie, and she is also fantastic. She's really good. Her chemistry with him is great. The only thing I think is a little weird with them is that they never establish really what her connection, what made her want Adam Sandler's character, because there is almost a 30-year age difference. So that was the only thing that I thought was a little weird. There's this basketball player called, I think his name's Kevin Garnett. He's a real basketball player. The movie takes place in 2012, and he plays for the Celtics. And his involvement with Adam Sandler's character is that Adam Sandler has this rare uncut gem, this opal stone, and Kevin Garnett views it as like a good luck charm. So Kevin Garnett wants to hold the Opal Stone and try to use it to win games, like it's like his like lucky charm or whatever, and he's just drawn to it and he wants it. And Adam Sandler, the whole movie, Adam Sandler's trying to sell it to him for a very high price, but all sorts of things ensue that make just this simple transaction incredibly anxiety-inducing, incredibly panicking. The whole movie is just a series of things going wrong for Adam Sandler, but you still like him, you still want him to pull through. But you're just saying, like, dude, this whole time you were really playing with fire right here, especially with the person who's the loan shark in this movie. When you understand his connection to Adam Sandler, that adds a whole new dynamic. But on top of that guy, there's his goons that are with him, and there's one of those goons is clearly like just a loose cannon. Is just hates Adam Sandler and is just constantly. They stalk him, they follow him to family events, they beat the crap out of him. It's just constantly, he's getting just beat down and playing. This is the fire, and Adam Sandler keeps poking the fire, and it's just so aggravating to watch him make some of these mistakes, but at the same time, you understand his mindset. You understand that he's thinking, if I could just win really big one time, I can make all these small losses go away. But with a character like this, you know that even if that does happen, he's just going to create other small losses. And that's why the ending of this movie just makes it seem like, yeah, I guess that's for the best. Even though it's a mix of emotions when it throws you through at the end. I'm not familiar with the Safdie Brothers, but the way this movie is shot, the script is written, it is very, it adds to that anxiety because the shots are. I'm not crazy about shaky cam, but there's some shots where it's close up and shaky, where it's just to add that feeling of unease, and I think it's working successfully. Like, it's one thing when, I don't mind shaky cam in certain action scenes, but like when it's just like Hunger Games, like the opening of Hunger Games was all shaky and it didn't need to be. This, I feel like the shaking was just to add to that fidgeting, because I was fidgeting in my seat watching it. The shots are close up. The movie is darkly lit. There's this constant like hue of blue and green. The conversations in this movie, this is something I saw idiots complaining about on Facebook, is that the conversations, there's a lot of cursing in it, which, what the fuck do you expect? These are sleazy people in New York City. Hi, that's how we talk. And there's the conversations are constantly overlapping. People are constantly screaming over each other. And it's just like this kind of build of shit, and somebody is always trying to say something and trying to get the last word in. It's kind of like in Punch Drunk Love when Philip Seymour Hoffman is trying to get the last word in on Barry Egan. It's just constantly someone's trying to get their point across, and it's just shouted down and shouted over, and you're just waiting for you're just like, can somebody say something and finish this? Because they're all just cursing, and it's just so much. It's like you're going to a family get-together or something, and two cousins get into an argument, and then the aunts jump in, and the uncles jump in, and your parents jump in. It's just like, holy shit, this is just insanity. That is almost as many scenes in this movie. There's this scene where Adam Sandler goes to sleep in his office, and it's like one of the only quiet times in the entire movie. And when he lays down, you're just like, fuck. Oh my god, what is going on here? And when Adam Sandler's character breaks down at one point, it's totally warranted. It adds like a weight to it, because this character seems to be used to this kind of chaos, and so when he finally breaks down, you're like, shit, has he really pushed things too far? Is he just screwed? And it really does feel like that. I think the only scene I didn't like in this movie, and this has to do with Adam Sandler's mistress in the movie, is there's a scene where they go to this party that this rapper The Weeknd is at. I'm not familiar with him that much. I've heard of him. But Adam Sandler's mistress kind of is like flirting with him and getting a little touchy with him. And she works at his jewelry store. I think they allude that she's possibly some kind of like call girl or something. I'm not entirely sure. And that's what makes it a little weird with her relationship with Adam Sandler. Because there's a lot of times where they are just screaming and yelling at each other too. But at their core, they do care about each other. But they're two deeply flawed people. So I just wish they fleshed out like her interest in him, what drew her to him. I think that's something that needed to happen, at least to understand their dynamic. I know they're both sleazy people. I know they're both deeply flawed people, but I just want to know what her attraction to him is, because she is a beautiful young woman who can get a lot of people. She was flirting with the fucking Weeknd. So what is her connection? What is her interest in Adam Sandler's character? Why does she constantly go back to him? That's the only thing in this movie that I thought was a little lacking, but that's a small nitpick, because the majority of the movie is like just watching this. I don't want to say it's a character study. It's more just watching this character just constantly gamble with literally everything, and just seeing what happens in the end. He both succeeds and fails many times in this movie, and the ending is just an odd mix of both. This is not a movie for everyone, though. This is definitely, if you don't like unpleasant viewing experiences, this is very much an unpleasant viewing experience. It's not a pleasant movie. It's a great movie. It is not a pleasant movie, but it's a design choice. It's not meant to be necessarily enjoyed. It is just supposed to be just a rush and experience, and that's not for everyone. If you're somebody who can't watch something like A Clockwork Orange, which I would argue is more fucked up or less anxious than this movie, you're not going to enjoy this movie. This movie is gross, this movie is dirty, this movie is just anxious, but it's held together in this watchable sense by Adam Sandler, and this charisma and this cadence that he brings to this role. This really might be his best acting performance ever. It's not my favorite Sandler movie. I think my favorite's still Punch Drunk Love, and I think that's largely to do with my taste, because I do like my comfort food kind of movies, and that movie I found very satisfying at the end. This one is just a strange mix of emotions, which I totally enjoy, but it's not like my comfort food, if you know what I mean. It's not something I'd have to be in a mood to rewatch this movie again. And honestly, if this did not star Adam Sandler, I don't know if I would have sought this movie out, because it didn't look like my kind of movie based on the trailer. It's heavily involved in anxiety and sleaziness and sports. These are things that don't necessarily appeal to me, but Adam Sandler just drew me in, and I'm glad that I watched this movie. So the final score for Uncut Gems is a 9 out of 10. If the relationship with his mistress was a little bit more developed, so I can understand her perspective as well, and that scene with the Weeknd was just removed entirely because I don't feel like that added much, I would give it a perfect score. It's just held down a little bit, and again, it's not my kind of movie necessarily. I wouldn't have sought it out, but I still enjoy the hell out of this movie. If you told me in 2019 that the new Adam Sandler movie would be far superior than the new Star Wars movie, I would have told you to go fuck yourself. You're crazy, but nope, that's the case. That's the world we live in. And he's up for, I think he's being considered for an Oscar nomination this year, and I kind of think he should get the nomination. This is a fantastic performance. It's really hard because Joaquin Phoenix is also being considered for Joker, and I thought Joaquin Phoenix was fantastic in Joker, but the thing is, Joker did feel like a movie. This felt so grounded and so real and so dirty. It actually honestly felt a little bit dirtier than Joker at some points. So I enjoyed the hell out of this movie. Go see it. Support the good Adam Sandler movies. My favorite thing is that the theater that I saw this movie in was packed, and I hope it stays that way. Please support these kind of movies that Adam Sandler makes. Keep pushing him to make these kind of movies, because a lot of his dramas were failures financially, and I want one to be a huge success. I want this to be a resounding success, so he keeps doing these kind of movies. Fuck the shitty comedies. Yeah, pay your friends to go on vacation, whatever. But push yourself, challenge yourself, because every time he challenges himself, he's just awe-inspiring. So that's it for this review, and I thank you guys for watching, and I will see you next time.